Heroes of Warcraft.
Greetings all, this is the TK-Force, the team-killing force of nature itself. I'm here giving you the information on the latest update to Hearthstone. You see, there was a patch recently, just an hour ago or so, that has balanced a number of cards in the game in a way that the developers feel, will make things a bit more fair all around. I'm going to go through these various patch cards and give you my take on it. So, join me as we decide whether the patch was fair. Okay, Abusive Sergeant. His battle cry has been changed to give a minion +2 attack this turn. That used to be friendly minion +2 attack this turn. Now he can give it to anybody. His stats weren't changed, his mana wasn't changed, just that little fact. And if it goes over to the next round, then obviously you are going to get back your, you're going to get back, I'm sorry, if it goes over to the next round, your opponent's round, it's not this turn anymore, so they're going to lose the +2 attack, right? So it doesn't harm you in any way to put him out and plus your opponent's minion for your turn. In fact, it can help you in some situations. Big Game Hunter is a card that will, when it comes into play, instantly kill something with 7 attack or more. So you could beef up, say, a Savannah High main with this to 8 attack from 6, and then use your Big Game Hunter on it to kill it off. So this is a buff for the Abusive Sergeant. A small one, but a buff nonetheless. Do I think it's fair? Yeah, I really don't have a problem with this one. It could also be used by priests to get around the 4 damage blind spot and push something into Shadow Word death range. Let's move on to Warlock? No. Warlock? No. Warlock? Yes. Blood Imp has received a substantial nerfing. It has stealth. It still has stealth, but it's a 0/1 now. And at the end of turn, give another random friendly minion +1 health, which it works basically like the Young Priestess did. And it's really not serving the same function it used to. I mean, it could still be a useful card, but this is significantly downgraded it from what it used to be, which was an aura effect that gave all other minions +1 health. So that really hurts a lot of rush decks and stuff like that. Do I think it's fair? I think it needed a nerf. I think that they might have somewhat over-nerfed it. Just a touch. Okay. Dark Iron Dwarf. It's a general card for 4 mana? Yeah. Okay, Dark Iron Dwarf here. It is a 4/4 for 4. Battle Cry, give a minion +2 attack this turn now. Before, it was just give a minion +2 attack. Now it's just this turn. So like with the Abusive Sergeant before it, giving this to the enemy doesn't really hurt you because it's only for this one turn, which is yours. Again, you can use this to pump something of your opponent's into kill range by the big game hunter. Or if you don't have a combo, but you just need to bring a 4/4 into play because they could be handy, you could just buff something of your opponent's and not worry, because when you hit that end turn button, it's going to go back to normal. Whereas before, the Dark Iron Dwarf, its buff was constant, so if you didn't have any minions on the field to buff, you had to buff your opponent's minion and just live with the consequences of that, which were generally the consequences were the Dark Iron Dwarf getting killed and that play being pointless. So, in some ways it's a bit of a buff, but in other ways it's a bit of a nerf. So it's kind of evened out all the way around. It's fair enough. 4/4 for 4 and a permanent +2 that generally went to your minions, that is a little overpowered, so fair enough. Moving on, right next to it, Defender of Argus. It always gave adjacent minions +1/+1 and taunt. But now, instead of a 3/3 for 4, it's a 2/3 for 4. Its real power comes from that +1/+1 on either side. You know, that it gives to the other minions. And do I think that it was fair to bump down its attack by 1? You know, I'm not sure that was enough, but Blizzard has all the stats, so I'm sure they feel it was enough. So I'll go along with them on this. I think that maybe this one was not nerfed quite enough, but it's still it's still a wonderful card. It's still a card you will see in everybody's deck. So if they wanted to stop it from being an auto pick, I don't think this is going to do it. That's just my feelings on that. Let's move on to Mage 7+. There we go. Pyroblast has been changed. Much like the Mind Control before it, since Mind Control for Priest generally wound up being a turn 8 win. Not necessarily a for sure win, but grabbing your opponent's most powerful creature on round 8 generally took the wind out of their sails. Pyroblast, on the other hand, was oftentimes an assured round 8 victory, where before round 8 you made sure through your aggressive minions or aggressive use of fireballs to get your opponent's health down to 10, and then use the Pyroblast to finish it off on round 8. So it was a definite round 8 victory thing. But even past that, if the match did drag out longer due to some heals and stuff, having it at 8 allowed it to combo. Yes. You see, you could use on round 10 a Pyroblast to do 8 damage, and then you had 2 mana left over that you could use for your hero powers ping for 1 damage. Or 2 mana could also fuel a Frostbolt, which does 3 damage. So on round 10, you could be doing 11 or 13 damage. This negates that. On round 10, you get to do 10 damage, and it takes your whole round. So it's still a potentially deadly card, but they've taken away your ability to do even more than that. In fact, 2 fireballs are a lot more cost effective, making Archmage here, who gives you fireballs whenever a spell is cast, perhaps a little bit more viable, and making Pyroblast a little less of a must. So we'll see how that turns out in the meta coming up. Next, 6 mana. And I picked 6 mana because... there we go. Sylvanas Windrunner. It hasn't been changed in any way, stats-wise or death rattle-wise. Still a 5/5. Still has that death rattle to take control of a random enemy minion. Its mana has just been increased from 5 to 6. And that's totally fair. It did way too much for 5 mana. So, 6. Again, it's another one of those situations where I think maybe they didn't do enough. But it's a nerf in the right direction, and I think it'll be fine now. In fact, at 5, it was probably... it wasn't the most game-breaking thing in the world. It was an auto-include, obviously, which is probably what the issue was. So, putting it up to 6 might make it less of an auto-include. I mean, this had to go in every deck, basically. Maybe that's not the case anymore, because there were times and decks where it wasn't the most effective thing in the world, but it was so cost effective, why not put it in? Now that it's not the most cost effective thing in the world, maybe you don't have to put it in even when it's not it's not got an extreme function to it. What I'm saying is, even control decks put this in. And generally, by the time you could play it, you had board control already, so your opponent didn't have any minions for this to take control of, and it was a little pointless. But keeping it in your deck just in case was a no-brainer. So do I think it was fair? Maybe not heavily nerfed. I mean, maybe not nerfed enough is the problem. Where'd my mage tab go? No, seriously. Oh, I guess I have no 6 mana. Go to all. Go to mage. Go to the last page there with the Pyroblast. Do I think that was fair? Yeah, that needed to be done. 13 damage from a Frostbolt and Pyroblast in 1 round was a little bit insane. Now, you could still do 10 damage as a mage, but just 10 damage unless you unleash more than 1 card, like with double Fireball. So, yeah, that's fine. Moving on to the last change to the expert cards, we see that Unleash the Hounds has received a buff. It's down from 4 cost to 2, alongside things like the Scavenging Hyena and Starving Buzzard, which are the cards that it actually combos with. So before, when you had to combo it on round 6 at the earliest, really, now you can combo it on round 4. What do I think about that? I think that, quite frankly, maybe they had too big of a reaction on this. At 4, it was useless. I said it was useless before. I stand by that. I think 3 might have been the magic number. I think 2 might make this a little more too powerful again, because let's say your opponent has board control on round 4, you pop out your Scavenging Hyena, you pop out the Unleash the Hounds, you suicide the Unleash the Hounds into one of his more dangerous creatures, and each time one of them dies, this gains a +2/+1, and you took out one of his more dangerous creatures with the Suicide Hounds, and then got a very dangerous creature of your own, all on round 4. So, yeah. I think that maybe this was a little overbuffed, but we'll see. We'll see. I certainly think that it makes hunters viable again, which has been a problem for some time. Let's move on to the non-expert cards. Among the basic cards, yeah, there's a search function, I know that. Oh, Novice Engineer, here it is. Novice Engineer has been nerfed. It still does the exact same thing for the exact same mana, but it's now a 1/1 instead of a 1/2. This was another one of those auto-includes in every deck sort of situations, like with Sylvanas. Yes, people, Novice Engineer was as overpowered as Sylvanas. Think about that for a moment. It had to go in every deck. So what they've done is they've made it so that's not quite true anymore. It doesn't have to go in every deck. Do I think dropping it down to 1/1 was fair? You know what? No. And yes. At 1/2, it was too powerful. At 1/1, it's too weak. But what else were you gonna do, really? I mean, you can't give it 1.5. Nothing does a half point of damage. So, I really don't know what they could have done there. If you can think of something, let me know. But it had to be nerfed. It was nerfed too much. But at the same time, there's not... they couldn't have done less to it. So, that's a tough one. Okay, the rest of it's in Warrior. So let's head over there. I sound a little depressed. I am, because they gutted this class. They really did. I didn't even play Warrior all that much anymore. But I feel bad for them. I feel bad for him, son. This is okay. 3 mana for a 2/3. The Warsong Commander. Whenever you summon a minion with 3 or less attack, give it charge. That had to happen. It really is a big nerf, but it had to happen because things like the Molten Giants coming out for 0 mana and then this giving them charge instantly was a bit of a huge problem, and most likely not an intended combo by the developers. This was probably always intended to give you some rush in the early to mid game. So, it wasn't considered something you were going to use for an end game combo kill. So this had to happen, and it still has quite a few uses. I mean, this is out, you pop down a Frothing Berserker, use a Whirlwind, pump up its damage. It already had charge from when it was dropped down, and then it has a lot extra attack from the Whirlwind, hurting a bunch of things, and you slam in there with it. This is still going to have some uses where it can pull off a nice chunk of damage. But it is a nerf. It has weakened the class significantly. And then we move on to Unleash the Hounds here. That's right. They gave charge the Unleash the Hounds treatment. I'm not talking about the new treatment where Unleash the Hounds was buffed because they realized that they screwed Unleash the Hounds over last time. I'm talking that they nerf charge to a degree where a card that was already not that great in most circumstances costs 3 mana to give a minion charge and +2 attack. That's bullshit. Okay? 3 mana is way too much for charge and +2 attack. Thankfully, it's +2 attack forever, but that's still too much. Okay? 3 is an overreaction to the whole using it to bring out Molten Giants, or using it on Alexstrasza to have them charge in after cutting the opponent's health down to 15. I mean, yes, it had to be addressed so that those type of combos couldn't be done with it, but you put its mana cost too high for way too little effect. You gave it the old Unleash the Hounds treatment, and I would not be surprised if we at the very least see this go to a 2 mana cost at some point. I would hope, because at this point the card is trash. It has basically been removed from the game. Nobody is going to run charge at 3 mana for +2 attack charge. It's not going to happen. So that's my theory on charge. Do I think it's fair? I think I described whether it was fair or not. Let's move on to the very last part of the video. I did a couple of pack opening videos of the other day. You'll be seeing those go up on the weekend. And I saved all of the cards that I got for the balance change to hopefully get a little more dust out of them. The end of the pack opening videos, the dust I was to get from them was 4,135 crafting mode, now 4,690. So yeah, saving them over has given me extra dust that I will be able to acquire. Quite happy about that, so stay tuned for those pack opening videos on the weekend. Normally I don't upload on the weekend. I give you guys the weekend off to catch up on things. But they're just a couple of bonus videos. Not everyone's gonna enjoy watching me open packs, but I enjoyed opening them, so I'm going to give you the option to watch them. What do I think about the balance change patch overall? I think a lot of the changes were necessary. In some cases, they didn't go quite far enough. In some cases, they went a little too far. And in a few cases, they were spot on the money. So let's hope that all balances out to something okay. But rest in peace, Warriors. You have been nerfed into the same area that hunters were after the last patch. Hopefully somebody manages to revive you with some brilliant new strategy, or Blizzard takes pity on you and sees that they have destroyed a class whose hero ability was already the weakest in the game. So that's the way that cookie crumbles. I hope you guys enjoyed my opinions on the patch, and if you did, leave a like, leave a comment letting me know if you think these changes are balanced. Oh, don't forget to subscribe for more Hearthstone coverage in the future. Until then, though, may the Force be with you.